Hello dear students, now we start with the next lecture of mineral nutrition. In this lecture, we will talk about the several deficiency symptoms of the essential element, some of the essential element, the toxicity symptoms, how they appear, then how the minerals are absorbed, and what is the motility behind that. Okay, how may they move, motile or immobile elements. We are going to talk about this. In previous lecture, we have already dealt with the hydroponics, criteria of essentiality. This all topic we have covered. So now we start with the toxicity and deficiency symptoms. But when we talk about essential element, essential elements are important for plant. Yes, they are important. But when their amount slightly increase, then it causes about some of the deficiency symptom. This essential element can show toxicity symptom or deficiency symptom. Toxicity symptoms will appear when there is a slight or moderate increase in concentration of mineral element, and deficiency symptom will appear when there is a slight or moderate decrease in concentration of mineral element. Okay, so they can show this type of particular things. So now out of these two, first we talk about the toxicity symptoms or toxicity of micronutrient. Now when we talk about toxicity of micronutrient are required by plant in low amount. Now the moderate increase in their concentration cause toxicity of that elements. Moderate increase cause toxicity of mineral element. In this specifically we talk about a particular manganese toxicity. What we talk about first? The important toxicity which is well known and which is in our syllabus, that is manganese toxicity. Now this manganese toxicity result in a primary symptom, okay, that we will study manganese. But first remember that if we consider any mineral like manganese, if we consider any mineral ion concentration, if any mineral ion concentration in tissue that reduces dry weight of tissue by 10%, then it is considered toxic element. Means manganese is one of that toxic element that decreases or reduces the dry weight of a plant by a 10%. Now if manganese toxicity occurs, then what will be the symptoms that will appear? So we talk about the next symptoms of manganese toxicity. Symptoms of manganese toxicity. So when we talk about a symptom, the primary symptom or prominent symptom is primary or prominent symptom is appearance of brown spots, appearance of brown spots surrounded by chlorotic or yellowish veins. That is the prominent symptoms. Now when we talk about other symptoms, brown spot is a prominent symptom, but other symptoms which include it compete with magnesium and iron for uptake, means absorption, and with magnesium for binding with enzyme, So this manganese is actually competing with the magnesium and iron for the uptake, for the absorption, and it also competes with the magnesium for the binding with the enzyme. And then one more thing is that it inhibits calcium translocation. Should it inhibit calcium translocation in shooter packs. Therefore we can say excess of manganese induces deficiency of iron, magnesium and calcium. Means if it causes a deficiency of iron and magnesium and calcium, actually it is not causing a deficiency, but due to the excess of manganese, the deficiency of this occur. So we can conclude that the toxicity symptoms of manganese and deficiency symptoms of iron, magnesium and calcium are similar. Yes, it can be, because they are the deficiency, and for manganese it is a toxicity, and both become similar for this manganese toxicity. Okay, so now after this we talk about the deficiency symptoms of essential element. So next topic which we are dealing, that is deficiency symptoms of essential element. So now when we talk about deficiency symptom of essential element, first you should understand that a concentration of element below which growth is retarded is known as critical concentration. It is a critical concentration for the growth of the plant, because below which the growth is going to decline or it is going to reduce. So the element said to be deficient, so element said to be deficient when present below critical concentration. Okay, now the deficiency bring about, so it causes what? Element said to be deficient. Okay, deficient, when it is deficient in plant, when the concentration is below the critical concentration of that particular element. And deficiency bring about certain morphological changes known as deficiency symptoms. Okay, if deficiency of particular deficiency element continues, it may eventually lead to the death of the plant as well. So deficiency, if continues, of that particular element, then it may eventually lead to death of plant. Okay, so after this a deficiency occur and deficiency symptom will occur. What can be the common deficiency symptom? So common deficiency symptoms include chlorosis, then necrosis, stunting, premature fall of organs, and inhibition of cell division. So these are some of the common symptoms. And deficiency of any element can cause multiple symptoms. And the same symptom may be caused by one of several different elements, So it is not that the particular symptom is associated with only that particular type of element. There are several elements which can show similar type of effect. Okay, yes or no? So now we are going to deal with the functions and deficiency symptoms of some of the mineral elements that can be macro or micro, but we are going to deal with one element one by one. So now we first talk about first mineral element, that is nitrogen. Now when we talk about nitrogen, if we talk about the principal function of nitrogen include that it is present in all living matter. It is present in all living matter. It is a part of amino acid, proteins, purine, pyrimidine like nitrogenous bases. It is also part of NAD, NADP, FMN and FAD, which are the cofactors. Early loss of leaves, that is defoliation, can also occur, and it is also found in case of cytochrome and chlorophyll. It is the mineral element which is required by plant in the greatest amount, and the requirement of plant in the greatest amount is the one of the important statement. Okay, this nitrogen is required by the greatest amount. It is absorbed in NO3 minus. Be remember, it is absorbed in NO3 minus form. Okay, nitrate form. Then some are also taken up as NO2 NH3. Okay, so remembering it is can be also absorbed as NO2 minus and NH4 plus. These are the different forms, but NO3 is the main form in which it is getting absorbed. Next, if we talk about nitrogen is required by all parts of the plant, it is required by all parts of plant, mainly meristematic tissue, and metabolically active cells. And nitrogen is a major constituent of protein, nucleic acid, vitamin and hormone that we have discussed. Now, after principal function, next we talk about deficiency symptoms of this nitrogen. In deficiency symptom, chlorosis first in older leaves, first appear in case of older leaves. Premature leaf fall will occur, leaf will be lost or abscission will occur at the premature age. Reduced yield will be reduced, and the red leaf of cotton will be red in color. And deficiency also lead to the deficiency of a development of anthocyanin pigment, and anthocyanin is a water soluble pigment. Its deficiency occur on the deficiency of a nitrogen. Next we talk about a second element, that is phosphorus. Now phosphorus is absorbed by plant from the soil in the form of phosphate ion. It is absorbed as phosphate ion that are either H2PO4 minus or H3O42 minus. Okay, so in this form they can be absorbed. Now when we talk about phosphorus, is a constituent of, it is a constituent of cell membrane. As we have studied, cell membrane is a phospholipid bilayer, so they have a phosphorus, okay, or phosphate. So it is a constituent of cell membrane. It is a constituent of certain protein, all nucleic acid, because in nucleic acid phosphodiester bond is there. So in all nucleic acid it is present. It is also present in case of nucleotides, okay, that is purine and pyrimidine type of nucleotides, and is required in all phosphorylation reactions. So this is what about some of the characteristic and principal functions of the phosphorus. Now we talk about a deficiency symptom of this phosphorus. Deficiency symptoms include mottled chlorosis, then premature death, chlorosis with necrosis, then premature abscission of leaf. Abscission means fall of leaf, poor vasculature, and cambium activity is checked. Next we talk about the third mineral element, that is potassium. Now when we talk potassium, it is absorbed as K plus ion. Absorbed as K plus ion. Okay. Now when we talk about requirement in plants, it is required in more abundant quantities. In more abundant quantities in the meristematic tissue, in the meristematic tissues, buds, leaves and root tips. This is the region where there is a need of this potassium in abundant quantities. Now next we talk about the physiological role of this potassium. When we talk about physiological role, okay, this potassium help to maintain anion cation balance in cell. Help to maintain anion cation balance in cells. Okay, it is involved in protein synthesis. It is involved in protein synthesis, helping in opening and closing of stomata. It helps in opening and closing of stomata. Responsible for potassium is also responsible for activating several enzymes connected with phosphorylation, photosynthesis, respiration and synthesis of chlorophyll. So we remember important is potassium involved in synthesis of chlorophyll. So these are the regions where there is a more important responsible role to activate enzyme is involved. Now we know that it is importantly play a role in opening of stomata, so it help in maintaining turgidity of the cell. And deficiency of this potassium causes leaf tips, loss of cambial activity, and plastid disintegration. So for all this, particularly the deficiency role is important, caused leaf tips, loss of cambium activity when there is absence of potassium, and plastid disintegration also occurs. Next we talk about the fourth element, that is calcium. Now calcium is absorbed in form of calcium, that is Ca2 plus ion from the soil. Now when we talk about its requirement, calcium is required by meristematic and differentiating tissue. tissue. It accumulates in older leaves. Accumulate in older leaves. When we talk about physiological role, it is required for synthesis of cell wall, during cell division. Particularly as calcium pectate in middle lamella. Then it is also required during formation of mitotic spindle. Formation of mitotic spindle and organization of chromosome. It is involved in normal functioning of cell membrane. Involved in normal functioning of cell membrane. The calcium is also activates several enzymes. It also activates several enzymes like ATPase, phospholipase, and alpha amylase, etc. Play important role in regulating metabolic activities, which also play important role in regulating metabolic activities. So these are the physiological roles of a calcium. Fifth element we are going to talk, that is magnesium. Now magnesium is absorbed in form of divalent magnesium ion, that is Mg2+. Okay, when we talk about its requirement, it required in growing areas of root and stem, seeds, leaves, etc. In all this part it is required. When we talk about physiological role, the physiological role of magnesium is as magnesium pectate in middle lamella, constituent of porphyrin ring of chlorophyll, and it is present at the center. Next, required for binding of ribosome. Required for binding of ribosome subunit during protein synthesis. And next, activate several enzymes activate several enzymes involved in photosynthesis and respiration. Okay, and next, involved in synthesis of DNA and RNA. So these are the different functions or physiological role of the magnesium. It is involved in photosynthesis and respiration, yes, and it is involved in synthesis of DNA and RNA as well. Sixth element which we are going to talk, that is sulfur. Now, plant absorbs sulfur from the soil, so it is absorbed in form of SO2 4 minus, that is sulfate ions, required by young leaves and meristem. It is required by young leaves and meristem. When we talk about physiological role, first physiological role, it is a constituent of 2 amino acid methionine and cysteine, and it is an important statement as they usually ask from this, that which are the constituent of the methionine amino cysteine amino acid, then it is nothing but a sulfur. Second important point is also used in synthesis of some vitamins, that is thiamine and biotin. Coenzyme A and some compound involved in various metabolic activities. Its deficiency causes accumulation of anthocyanin pigment. So anthocyanin pigment accumulate in the deficiency of the sulfur. Next we talk about seventh element, that is iron. When we talk about iron, this iron is required in larger amount in comparison to other micronutrient. Okay, when we talk about its absorption, it's absorbed in form of ferric Fe3 plus ion. When we discuss physiological role of iron, we come to know some of the points. In this, we find that it is important constituent of protein. It is important constituent of protein involved in transfer of electrons like ferredoxin and cytochromes. So it is a part of cytochromes and the ferredoxin. It reversibly oxidized from Fe2 plus to Fe3 plus during electron transport. During electron transport in photosynthesis and respiration. It activates catalase enzyme, and this catalase enzyme is involved in breakdown of H2O2 into O2 and okay. So when we talk about the breakdown of H2O, it breaks into H2O and catalase carry out breakdown of H2O2. Now H2O2 break into, if two H2O2 are there, then it will break into H2 and 2H2O. Okay, in this breakdown of this H2O2 will carried out by the catalase enzyme. Next to that is essential for formation of chlorophyll and other pigment. So for all this, particularly this ion is important. Next element is manganese. Now this manganese is the micronutrient which is absorbed in form of manganese ion. That is Mn2 plus from the soil. It is required mainly in leaves and seeds. So when we talk about physiological role of this manganese, we come to know that it activates several enzymes. Involved in photosynthesis, respiration and metabolism. Okay. Second, play major role in photolysis of water to liberate oxygen during photosynthesis. Okay, it liberates oxygen during the breakdown of photolysis and breakdown of water or photolysis of water. Third point, deficiency causes a gray spots. Deficiency causes gray spots in oats. Okay, so these are the manganese physiological role. After manganese, next we are going to talk about another micronutrient, that is zinc. zinc. Zinc is absorbed in form of Zn2 plus ion, 2 plus ion by plant from the soil. It is required everywhere in plant body. Next we talk about physiological role of zinc, and in this we come with the first role, that is it also activate various enzymes, especially carboxylases. Second, also required in synthesis of oxygen, also required in synthesis of oxygen. So this type of question are asked directly. This is the important question with respect to zinc, that which element is involved in synthesis of oxygen. So it is a zinc. Next, has role in tryptophan synthesis. And its deficiency produce leaf malformation, and little leaf. Okay, so these are the two important deficiencies are observed with respect to zinc. Next micronutrient is copper. It is absorbed as cupric ion, that is Cu2 plus from the soil. Required everywhere in plant body. But when we come to the physiological role, of this copper, we come to know that it is essential for overall metabolism in plant. Essential for overall metabolism of plants. Next, like iron, it associated with certain enzyme involved in redox reaction. Next, it also reversibly oxidizes from Cu plus to Cu2 plus, that is Cu plus, reversibly oxidized into Cu2 plus plus electron during electron transport. Hence, it is essential for photosynthesis and respiration both. Next microelement is boron. This boron is absorbed as BO33 minus and B4O7 2 minus. It is required in leaves and seeds. But when we talk about physiological role of this boron is required for uptake and utilization of Ca+2, that is a calcium. It is involved in functioning of cell membrane and pollen germination. This is the important question which they ask usually. So important, which element is responsible for the pollen germination? That is a boron. Next important point is translocation of carbohydrate. Translocation of carbohydrate or sugar through phloem. This is also important. For this they also ask translocation of sugar is carried out by boron. Responsible for cell elongation and cell differentiation. Deficiency, if you talk about it, causes loss of apical dominance. Now apical dominance means the apex does not allow the lateral branches to grow. So that loss of apical dominance meant in presence of apical bud the lateral branches start growing in deficiency of boron. And another deficiency is absence of root nodule in leguminous plant or legumes. Okay, so these are the deficiency symptoms of boron, where absence of root nodule in legume means nitrogen fixation is lacking. Next micronutrient is molybdenum. Molybdenum, it is absorbed in form of molybdate ion, that is MOO2 2+. It is required everywhere in plant. Everywhere in plant body. However, more commonly found in roots. More commonly found in roots. When we talk about physiological role of this molybdenum, we note that it is a component of several enzymes, including nitrogenase, nitrate reductase, and this nitrogenase and nitrate reductase both participate in nitrogen metabolism. essentially for nitrogen fixation. So these are the physiological role of molybdenum. Next micronutrient is chlorine. Now chlorine is absorbed in form of chloride ions, that is Cl minus, from the soil, required everywhere in plant. And when we come to the physiological role, then along with manganese, it is also involved in photolysis of water to liberate O2 during photosynthesis. Next is, along with sodium and potassium, this determine solute concentration and anion cation balance in soil. And now we come to the last element which we will discuss in this part, that is nickel. So next element is nickel. Nickel is absorbed from soil as divalent cation, that is Ni2+. It is required in leaves and roots. When we come to the physiological role, it is component of two enzymes that are urease and hydrogenase. And it is involved in metabolism of urea. Okay, so these are the particular physiological functions of nickel, and all whatever the important macro and micro element are there, or essential element are there, for which we have discussed about their absorption mechanism, their absorption from where they are found, and what are the physiological roles. So this is all about the particular different elements and their roles. Now we talk about the particular mobile element and immobile element. So if we talk about this, then deficiency symptoms depend on mobility of the element, also depend on mobility of element in plants. Either they can be mobile or immobile. The element which are mobile, its deficiency symptom first appear in senescent parts or older plant parts, whereas its deficiency symptom first appear in younger parts of plants. Okay, now why deficiency symptom first appear in senescent part of mobile element? Because if the breakdown occurs or any chemical or biomolecule containing this element are broken down, then in older leaves they make this element available for the mobilizing to the younger parts. But when deficiency tends to appear first in younger tissue, whenever the element is relatively immobile, are not transported on the out of the mature organs. So element like sulfur and calcium are immobile. So write example sulfur and calcium according to this CRT. And next, if we talk about mobile element, then nitrogen, potassium and magnesium, whose deficiency symptom first appear in case of the older plant parts. Now we will be going to talk about some of the symptoms shown or deficiency symptoms shown by the different elements. First is chlorosis. Now chlorosis is loss of chlorophyll leading to yellowing of leaves. Okay, now the symptom is caused by deficiency of elements like this. Chlorosis occur due to elements like nitrogen, potassium, magnesium, sulfur, iron, manganese, zinc and molybdenum. But when we talk about a second, that is necrosis or death of tissue, particularly leaf tissue, then it is due to deficiency of calcium, magnesium, copper and potassium. Calcium, magnesium, copper and potassium. Next, third is inhibition of cell division. It is due to deficiency of nitrogen, potassium and sulfur and molybdenum, which causes the inhibition of cell division. And last, some element are there which delay flowering. So some element like nitrogen, sulfur and molybdenum delay flowering if concentration in plant is low. If concentration is low, then nitrogen, sulfur and molybdenum are deficiency of this cause a delay flowering, and flowering is. Next topic which we are going to talk about, that is absorption of mineral ions. Now this absorption of mineral ions occur in two phases, that is apoplast and symplast. Now in apoplast, the absorption of minerals, that is occur to cell wall or outer space of cell, and it occurs rapidly, but it occurs into the inner space of cell, and here ATP are used, and it is a slow process. And if you want to understand, we can understand by diagram. Suppose this is a root, and this is the cell of a root, and this is the cell wall. Then first the minerals are absorbed rapidly up to this region, okay, and that is outer space, and that is occur through apoplast rapidly, and that is through the ional channel. But when it is placed in the inner space, then it is known as symplast, and here ATP are used, so it become a active process, whereas apoplast becomes passive process. Okay, so this is the thing of absorption of mineral ions. Now after absorption, minerals ion are translocated through xylem from root to aerial or other parts of plant. So that are the particularly absorption and the translocation. Okay, now the all deficiency symptom, toxicity symptoms, mobility and absorption mechanism is over. In next class we will talk about the nitrogen cycle and metabolism of